It's cool, but like this is the easiest prediction to make ever.
I think we're gonna see like a big wave of this where
Yeah,
people
there
are
will
just
be. And it will
throwing them
be
left,
shit.
right, and center. Yeah, there'll be one or two that are good.
And it's a fucking shit show everywhere. Instagram is full of like fake AI profiles. Pinterest is full of that too. Medium is full of that.
YouTube's even like there's
Yeah.
a lot of AI, faceless channels. They've been driving some pretty wild discovery ability for people. So you create a good post, it can get a lot of reach. The way we use the internet is set to dramatically change this year. And if you're running an online business, you need to hear this. Google just dropped a bombshell with its new Gemini model that has a context size big enough to handle an entire book. Social media is being flooded with AI-generated content that's becoming harder and harder to distinguish from reality. And the tools that we use to build and run our business, well, they're getting supercharged with autonomous AI agents that can handle everything from research to customer support. In this episode of the Authority Hacker podcast, we're analyzing what other marketers have predicted will happen this year, and we'll share what we think is about to happen next. We'll reveal why major platforms like Reddit might be in trouble, and what's really happening with Google's AI ambitions. Plus, how the rise of nano-influencers could transform how brands reach new audiences. Plus, we'll look back at our 2024 predictions to see what we got right and wrong. So whether you're running an agency, building a personal brand, or growing an online business, this episode will help you navigate the massive changes just around the corner.
Welcome to the Authority Hacker Podcast. And now, your hosts, Gail Breton and Mark Webster.
Happy New Year and welcome back to the Authority Hacker Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be making some online marketing predictions for this year. And I've got, as always, my co-host and co-founder, Gail. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty excited for this year, for all the new changes that we're going to do on our business. But I guess a lot of things are going to change. One thing you didn't mention, by the way, is that we're also going to review some predictions from other people. We thought it would
in
be
fact,
interesting.
we're going to start doing that.
Yeah,
Then we're
exactly.
going to present some of our own predictions. And as a special treat, we're also going to go back on the 2024 predictions, which we made last year, and see if we got them right or not. And there's a few doozies in there, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, as usual, it's probably going to be 50-50, but let's see how this goes. Let's start right away. Let's just go into the first prediction from other people and talk about it.
Okay, so the first prediction we have is from Wes McDowell, and his prediction is that custom GPTs will begin to be used more as lead magnets. So this is really a commentary about the general rise of custom GPTs as content, as products, as things that people give away. And there are a couple of specific examples he mentioned. He's got the case of like a financial advisor creating a GPT to give budgeting and investment advice, personal trainers offering workout plan GPTs, and dog trainers providing behavior advice GPTs. So let me just get your thoughts on this whole segment. Are custom GPTs going to be a big thing this year?
No, I don't think so. And the reason why is because the point of the lead magnet is it feels like it brings immediate value without effort on your end, right? It's like when we give a lead magnet away, already very few people even download the lead magnet. You email them the link to the lead magnet after they gave their email, and it's like half the people never even click that link to get the lead magnet they just opted in for, right? That's the amount of people. That's how lazy people are when they do these things. And if you're telling me that I'm going to get a custom GPT and I need to start prompting it to get the output, it's already too much work I
don't necessarily agree with that, right? I think, okay, fair enough. Not everyone's going to take advantage of it. But if you're in some kind of person-to-person business, a dog trainer, a personal trainer, financial advisor, these are like fundamentally different from what our business is or was. I think that being able to speak to someone to get immediate help with your problem is helpful. Well, you're kind of getting, let's say, 80% of their perceived knowledge, right? Straight away. I would compare this, right? We've both got dogs. I have a vet app, so if there's ever a problem, I don't have to bother going to the vet, or it's late at night, I can book a call, and in 15 minutes I can speak to someone. It's kind of like this, but automated. Okay, maybe quality is a little bit iffy or different because it's not a real human.
It's not just that, but
you get to take action and get answers fast.
Yeah, but how good is the vet going to be at making custom GPTs? Like people suck at prompting. It's like I see people's custom bots all the time, and it sucks, man. It's like quite often the base model is better. They put a lot of like junk inside the custom instructions and so on. And it just makes the bot behave worse than just the default out of the box GPT, which is already trained on veterinary knowledge. Like it's like if you're unable to add like significant added value, it's like plus the amount of defiance towards AI from the general public, right? It's like if I go to my mom and I'm like, here's a custom GPT, she's like, I don't want this. Like, and it's like, yeah, I think it's like
So,
it's a very marketing thing in the marketing circles that sounds cool, etc. But then go to the real consumers, and I'm not sure they see the value.
So is it that people are not willing to engage with these types of products, or the quality isn't there for it to earn trust?
First, it feels like work because I have to go and ask the questions. Whereas it's like a good lead magnet, be like, hey, I've prepared your custom workout. You have nothing to do. Just go to the gym and do this thing. And that's me. Like, it's not an AI that came up with it. It's me personally as the real specialist that made this for you. Just follow this. This feels higher value to me as a lead magnet because I'm following that person, not the AI of that person. And then the second thing is like, yeah, it's like, you need to be quite good at making these custom projects, custom GPTs, so that they output something that feels significantly different from the base model they're based on. Like, you know, compared to GPT or compared to Claude, like, yeah, you need a fair amount of knowledge in there. So it's going to behave differently.
Let's just strategize for a second there. Let's say you're a personal trainer and you want to create a custom GPT. Give us an idea of what that would involve.
That would involve like a kind of like, I mean, first of all, you need to put all the core knowledge inside kind of like text files or something and well structured so that AI can reference to it when you're asking stuff. So for example, let's say you're talking about leg training, right? Let's say you're the person that like, there's kind of like two types of people. There's kind of the bodybuilders who are going to be very into like hack squats and machines that help you do that. And then you have the power lifters that be like, no, actually, like you need to do a real front squat because that works your entire body. And then it's like you work all these small muscles and that's better for you, even though you maybe put less weight on it and your quads maybe not as big. Like you need to start essentially just giving your vision of things inside custom files to that bot, so it starts reflecting on what you believe in and saying the things you would probably say. And you basically build like a structure of files. So maybe you have something on like, you know, why compound movements are better than machines. You'd have like a list of like a ranking of like your best leg movements, etc., so that it can refer to that when it makes sense. You make a bunch of these files and then you make your system prompt essentially call out all the files that are provided to the custom GPT and tell it when to use it and how, so that it actually just structures an answer the same way you would probably do it. So it's kind of like building a software with multiple files that you call upon when you need it.
But it still has access to like the underlying information about basic biology and fitness in the LLM, though, right?
It does, but if you let it refer to that too much, you're essentially not really differentiating your custom GPT from just going to ChatGPT, and then the value is
what you're talking about here is the personalization process.
Exactly, it's so important because otherwise, like it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go to ChatGPT. It has search, has everything. Like, why do I need your custom GPT? You know, so it's like. I think it's gonna be like it's going to be used, and some people will be excited by it. I think it's gonna get old quickly as people execute it poorly, and then as a result, the opt-in rate is going to drop when you propose this kind of lead magnets because people will have had bad experiences, and then eventually it's just gonna be like whatever.
So I kind of disagree a bit. I think we're gonna see like a big wave of this where people are just throwing them left, right, and center. Yeah, there'll be one or two that are good. But people will have bad experiences, kind of like when AI, kind of like when AI generated content first came out, and everyone was like, this is not good enough. So they ignored it, and then slowly it got better and better and better. You still need some sort of tweaking and like expertise to be able to get the most out of it. But I think in the long term, this will be a big thing.
All right, let's see how it goes. I think it will be eventually, but I could even almost see it that like eventually, you know, you have the memory in ChatGPT, like you'll talk to it a lot. It will essentially build like your vision of things, and it will be able to build a custom GPT for you based on all those discussions you ever had, and that will make better versions than like the ones built by humans, almost. Like that's probably not next year. That's probably like 2-3 years away at least. Anyway, right. Let's jump on the next one.
Yeah, let's move on to the next one. This is by Matt Diggity, and one of his predictions from his SEO predictions video was that Reddit was going to lose a ton of traffic. He says that they've experienced massive traffic growth in 2023 due to, well, I mean, let's talk about this. Why did they grow so much? Is this a blatant Google favoritism because of these kind of deals to share data and things like that for Google to train its AI, or is it just what users want?
First of all, I want to say that's the easiest prediction to make because there's literally no way up for Reddit anymore. It's like I'm sorry, but like it's cool, but like this is the easiest prediction to make ever. But fair enough. I mean, why is it up? Because people like it. I think it's like I don't think it was intended by Google. It sounds like it was, but I think what happened is they just tuned up all the like brand searches, etc. In terms of like ranking sites up, and then coincidentally, like a lot of people were already adding Reddit at the end of their queries. There was this article that went viral like a few years ago that's like, oh, if you add Reddit at the end of your searches, you get much better Google results. That plus just experience in general made that a lot of people type queries plus Reddit. It was always big, like even when we went VPN, etc. Like that was a thing. That was a keyword with thousands of searches per month.
I'm not sure that Google has fully understood those people who are adding Reddit to the end of the search. I think that while there are plenty of people that are looking for good, genuine, unbiased advice on products that they're about to buy, they'll add it. I think there's also a lot of people who find that the on-site search in Reddit just kind of sucks. So they just go to Google and perform the search to find the thing they would have gone. Google's the navigation aid for them in this case.
Yeah, it's just because Reddit search has always been shit, but apparently they're making an AI search for it eventually. So who knows? Maybe Google's going to lose a bunch of traffic to Reddit soon. But yeah, it's like, is it going down? I don't know. Like, what do you put instead? Like, there's no way they're putting like a lot of content sites back. Like in my head, like content sites are going to live inside AI overviews, where essentially they're just going to quote them and you're going to be on the right of the AI overview panel and you'll be in the sources. And then the rest of the queries, like as we've seen even for our site, like, affiliate program queries, it's like instead of showing the lists that we used to make, now they're in the AI overview, and then they just show actual affiliate programs on these queries, right? I don't see them rolling that back. Like it's been a while. It's going further and further in that direction with every core update as well. So what takes Reddit's place? Like we need to answer that question to know if Reddit goes down.
Well, they seem to be kind of grouping Reddit, Quora, and they had this kind of discussions in forums. Feature, which was SERP feature, which was just Reddit and Quora, basically.
Quora
because
is going
down. You can't really trust any of the. I mean, we can argue if you can even trust Reddit, but you definitely can't trust some of the other kind of user-generated forums and stuff out there. They just get like spammed way too much.
I think they might go down a bit, but I don't think they're going down a lot. I just don't see a platform that replaces them unless. Let's say they make a deal with like Meta and then start showing like Instagram posts. So like, something that's UGC, but that's another platform. But it needs to be a big platform, right? And the problem is like they don't let each other crawl each other. So like Google cannot just like crawl over Instagram's content and index it, which is why it rarely shows. Or deal with TikTok. Let's say TikTok is sold to an American company, let's say to Amazon, and then they make a deal with Google to like expand the crawling ability of Google, and then a lot more TikTok content starts showing up in Google search. Like unless something like this happens, Reddit is still by far the best source for written UGC, which people seem to like. It's people prefer that to a 2,000-word blog post at this point.
Do you want to take a guess at how much traffic? So this is SEMrush, his prediction, which is higher than Ahrefs' prediction of how much traffic it has. But how much traffic per month do you think SEMrush estimates that Reddit has? This is organic traffic only.
750 million, maybe something like this.
1.2 billion.
Yeah. Okay. Almost double.
That is. I can't remember the last time I've seen an organic number that high in any SEO tool.
It's like YouTube or something. Like it's like
crazy
like that. So it's like, can they lose traffic? Yes. Is there something to replace them? And I think people like the Reddit widgets. Like I use them now. It's like I got used to it. I think they're staying where they are mostly, but the search layouts might change a bit, like our AI overviews become even bigger, and that leads to less traffic to Reddit, but not because they've been demoted in a significant way,
Do you agree that Reddit has been kind of inundated with spam and these kind of like people bumping up old threads with commercial content and buying
Yeah, but
upvotes to rank. And like, is that not kind of
it's a
shitted up the platform a bit?
it does, but so does every platform. We'll talk about some other platforms later. I'll show you the state of Pinterest, for example, and other platforms. And it's a fucking shit show everywhere, right? It's like Instagram is full of like fake AI profiles. Pinterest is full of that too. Medium is full of that. Like it's like the whole
YouTube's even
internet.
like there's a lot of AI, faceless channels that
So yes, it's bad, and you see it more because they rank on Google, right? Fair, but like it doesn't mean that elsewhere is better. Like I mean, websites have been spammed with AI content. I'm sorry, but the people who say that, they're the same people who throw a bunch of AI content on their site themselves. And so like you could argue it's the same problem, and it's like it's not like affiliates haven't been biased forever as well. Like let's be honest, it's just like.
I think what's interesting and what's maybe makes it less likely that Google removes Reddit so much is that Reddit takes one, sometimes two places in the SERPs, which means it gives Google plenty of other space to put all its other features, its AI overviews, has many ads as it wants, and still 9 other
and it trains Gemini
answers,
as well.
right? Whereas if we compare it to when there was a lot of small, medium-sized affiliate sites ranking or content sites ranking, that was taking up literally all of the organic space or most of the organic space. So it felt like a bigger change when those were removed,
Yeah, it's like now, like you need to think about the SERP layout rather than like websites. Like what is a SERP? The SERP is now informational content is on top inside the AI overview, and you'll get the link to the sources, to the content sites there. That's where they're gonna leave, maybe 1 or 2 spots in the organics, and that's about it. Then you're gonna have your UGC block, which is like the forum and discussion thing that mostly is Reddit and Quora at this point, but a lot of niche forums also do well there. And then you basically have the commercial stuff all around. And Google has this incentive to put Reddit for an informational piece over a website because it trains Gemini. And we'll talk about that because one of my predictions is related to Gemini. It's like, it's something that's very important to them. This is training AI overviews. This is kind of like a closed loop where they send traffic, but they get something from it. Whereas when they send traffic to your website, they don't get much for it unless you run ads on your site that is run by Google,
Okay, so Reddit not going to lose any traffic or not?
No, they might lose some, but I don't see like a huge downfall. Like,
okay. You think what, 10%, 20% max?
Yeah, they could lose 15, 20, but not more. That's the way I see it.
All right, so let's move on to our next one, which is going to be around SearchGPT and Perplexity as a viable Google alternative. But first, I'd like to have a quick word from our sponsor today. Digital.pr. They've just launched the world's first subscription-based digital PR service that makes premium 100% white hat link building accessible to anyone. Through a mix of reactive PR, expert commentary, and data-driven campaigns, they guarantee a minimum of 5 to 20 high-quality links from top-tier publications every quarter. And this is not some shot-in-the-dark approach. It's backed by Search Intelligence's proven track record, and is made possible by the world's largest digital PR team, now accessible at the click of a button. Unlike traditional agencies that require huge retainers, Digital.pr offers transparent monthly plans starting now from just £700 per month. That means no long-term commitments and no hidden fees, just guaranteed results. So if you want to level up your link building without breaking the bank, head over to Digital.pr and join the revolution that's making premium digital PR accessible to everyone. Okay, so now let's get back to the episode, and we're talking about SearchGPT and Perplexity as viable Google alternatives. This prediction comes from Nathan Gotch. Okay. Agree, disagree?
I agree. I mean, you saw in like one of the previous episodes, like my default search engine was Perplexity, and my other browser is like SearchGPT. And to go to Google, I type G, and then I just type the query, and it just gives me a Google query. I think in general, like search is gonna fragment. It's already more fragmented than people believe. Like, first of all, like 33% of all Google searches are now brand searches, so it's just navigational. I wouldn't even call it like SEO at this point, or just for the brand itself. But it's not fair game to try to rank for that. I think also Gemini is also going to get big if they put it in Chrome. Like it's quite possible that like the Chrome address bar gets some kind of Gemini search feature as well, or like some
Assuming
kind of sidebar.
they keep hold of Chrome, that is.
Assuming they keep Chrome, I think they could they could eat into their own market just to prevent SearchGPT and Perplexity to take it over. As of the end of last year, SearchGPT is actually free to everyone. You just need to log in, and you can also make it your default search engine on ChatGPT. So I imagine like some people will switch to that. So yeah, there will be viable Google search alternatives for searchers. Now for websites, that's another story. They will send a lot less traffic than Google has, and I imagine that a lot of people are gonna miss the Google 90% market share days when this market share finally shrinks.
It's interesting. I'm looking at the way I'm using it, and the fragmentation, that's a really good way to describe it. Because I also switched to having Perplexity as my primary search engine by default, and I did the G to go to Google. But I found what I was doing is I was using Google more often, but for like a few of the same things, looking at the weather, looking at map information or like local search stuff. Or for looking at like stock prices or travel stuff. So I find like I'm using Google, but I'm not really using it to find organic results. I'm using it to find information that it's displaying. So it's kind of becoming a portal in that sense. But,
60% of searches are no-click searches at this point, which means like people do not click on any new result, which it means they probably rely on the area overview or the widget, like the weather widget, whatever, that kind of stuff. And then, another 34% of searches, they do overlap though, so be a bit careful, are branded. So it's like, Google to go on websites is becoming a minority use of Google as a tool in general.
But this is really interesting because I think it gives small or very small companies like Perplexity, I mean, relative to Google at least, a real opportunity because they can essentially become the place to go when you're looking for information about current events and to understand news and trends and these kind of things. So it's really, really good at rounding that up information and presenting it to you. I
think Perplexity is going to have a rough time now that SearchGPT is free. We'll talk about Gemini later. As I said, it's getting good, like seriously good at search as well. I think big guys,
they're just going to bully everyone out of the market with their size and make everything free to basically buy market share.
Pretty much. And so like Perplexity is like okay when it's free, but like there is better alternatives now. Like the paid version of Perplexity is pretty good, but it's $20 per month. So it's like, you're better off paying for ChatGPT where you get all of the tools, including search in one package. So it's like the value proposition of the company is declining over time. And it's like, I think their best bet is to just get bought out really soon. And they'll have made good money basically. I don't see them staying. I think like all big companies have understood that search is going to be one of the main uses of LLMs, and it's going to be productized a lot more this year.
I think though the monetization model within that is still a little bit unclear, right? Because I mean, even Google has this problem where they throw a bunch of AI overviews at the top, and like, can you put ads in there? How do the ads influence it? Like that's still all a bit of an unknown at the moment.
It's not even important at this point. Like the battle for market dominance is what matters, and then monetization will matter more later.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next one, which again comes from Wes McDowell, and this one's around LinkedIn and specifically LinkedIn newsletters. I mean, let's talk about LinkedIn first of all, because I have found last year it felt like something fundamentally changed in how people were using it and how popular it was, at least in a kind of B2B sense. I know people were using it before, but like something about it changed. Do you get a feeling?
Yeah, it got more popular over time. I think the downfall of Twitter has a lot to do with that. A lot of people have migrated from Twitter to LinkedIn. Like Twitter is now becoming a niche social network, let's just say that, to not be too involved politically. And LinkedIn, it used to be a network where a lot of professionals would share what they do, much more than like on Facebook or even Instagram. And since Twitter is becoming like a more geared towards one specific target market, people that are not the target market and people who just don't want to take political sides are moving their content to LinkedIn. And I think that has helped significantly in terms of getting people involved.
There has been a lot of talk about, left and right and blue sky and X and all this kind of stuff. But I think what not so many people are talking about is the B2B crowd, right? They don't really care so much about any of that. They just want to talk about work. And
they don't want to change it.
Twitter X is not really a place for work stuff
not
anymore. You go on and it's like quite, different kind of personal videos and politics and that stuff. And it's just, not what a lot of people signed up for. So I think that's maybe helped. But also on LinkedIn, they've been driving some pretty wild discovery ability for people. So, you create a good post on LinkedIn, even if you have minimal followers, it can get a lot of reach. And I think that's how a lot of these networks in the early days build up users, is by being very generous with reach, right? We saw that with TikTok when it first came out, and then they kind of dialed it back a little bit later on. And
the reach is valuable, right? It's like business professionals. It's people who could become your clients or spend money with you. Like, it's not like kids scrolling on their phone or whatever. Like, it's people who have buying power. And so even if you get a bit less reach, like the potential value of that reach is much higher. And so like you combine the value of the audience with essentially the potential free reach by making good content. It's a good platform to be on. It's definitely one I want to spend more time on. Like, I used to be quite big on Twitter. I'm not really into the vibe that it's become, to be honest. So I think I'm going to spend more time on social media this year, and I'm going to be spending quite a bit of time on LinkedIn, actually.
Yeah. So one I'm most excited for, certainly at the moment as well. And specifically, and this goes back to Wes's point, is they have this newsletter feature, right? Which is kind of like I guess if you want to compare it to Facebook, it's like a page, right? You kind of have a blog on there, but it's called a newsletter because on LinkedIn, they will send it to people's InMail or LinkedIn inbox. So you'll get like a notification, potentially an email about it as well. So it's kind of like delivered in that way, as well as being delivered in the feed. And apparently, like, this is all the rage right now and is set to really take off this year. So do you think that's something worth investing in, bearing in mind that you still don't get everyone's email addresses to do other stuff with these, it keeps you very much on the platform?
I mean, think about the game of these platforms, right? The game of these platforms right now is like make posts that get lots of reach, and then essentially sprinkle CTAs for people to go sign up for your newsletter outside of the network. Like, that's pretty much all of these platforms now. And really, newsletters have replaced kind of like old school blogging. Like, when you talk about the stuff you're doing and so on, like, you're more likely to do it over a newsletter these days than you are to do it through a blog. And so I guess LinkedIn has identified this behavior and was like, well, what if we bring all the newsletters internally? And so like people stay on the platform, which is what's important to them, so that they can sell advertising for a lot of money. LinkedIn ads are very expensive. I think that's what they're trying to do. So these networks, they tend to reduce your reach when you have links that point externally, especially to sign up to newsletters, etc. And now they're like, well, maybe you can maintain your reach if you actually run your newsletters through our platform. And so we keep full control of that. Now, the problem is these things, they tend to work for a few years and then they kind of like get less popular. It's more difficult, like LinkedIn might change. And so like if I was serious about building a long-term business, I'd still want people's email addresses. And if I'm unable to collect them, then I'd probably be willing to forego the extra boost in growth. Or maybe I would do two layers, right? I would do a LinkedIn newsletter, and then inside the newsletter, I would have CTAs to sign up for stuff inside, like maybe extra lead magnets or something like that on my website. So that I get the extra reach from the LinkedIn newsletter, but I actually eventually do engage people into my real email list, so that when LinkedIn newsletter inevitably becomes less popular, I still maintain my reach through my email. So like, is it gonna? I see it as a temporary gimmick and a way to grow your real email list, maybe. Is it like a long-term thing? It's like there's a lot of these features on social networks, and they tend to not last super long.
You're right, though. It's so important to get your audience off platform and have some kind of connection with them in another way, through your website, through your email list, and in another way, because these social media platforms, that is their game. They're your friend for ages. They help you get loads of reach, and then they change something, engagement dips, reach dips. You have to pay for things, and you lose out. So there's not so much long-term stability with.
But there's ways to leverage these like temporary features that work very well, like this newsletter. If LinkedIn is really pushing them, like a lot of social network push new features like a lot, then I would do that. I would make a LinkedIn newsletter that just essentially promises free information, and then I would just put call to actions to lead magnets inside these newsletters where people have to click through and opt in. And that's maybe an extra step, but if I get free reach in exchange, it could be worth it. So yeah, it's almost like it's not really a newsletter. It's kind of like a pre-step to the real newsletter. If it gets big, yeah, maybe. I to be honest, I don't know that feature, so I'm not gonna pretend I know what's gonna happen. But LinkedIn is definitely a place to look at. So yeah, maybe it gets big.
All right, so let's move on to the next one. This comes from Jade Beeson. She's a popular social media influencer. She talks a lot about things like the future of social media and using AI in social media. Her point is that we're on this kind of like, we've reached this tipping point in terms of creativity. So there were huge barriers before to making like video content and especially like well produced. Your ability to take a creative idea you had in your head and make that a reality on the screen, it was difficult unless you were kind of a professional creator. So her argument is that with tools like Sora and AI video generation things and just AI in general to help brainstorm and develop content ideas, the average business owner is going to be much more able to bring their ideas to life quickly while still focusing on their business and that kind of thing at the same time. So do you think we're at a tipping point here or not?
So are the tools going to enable us to do more and better things? Yes. Are people going to do more and better things? I'm not sure. The problem is...
Are we going the other way then? Or is just more things, but not necessarily better?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, look at how it's gone with AI text generation, right? It was like everyone was like, oh my God, we have these great, like we used to pay writers, you used to take weeks to make articles. Now we have these tools that can do the same thing. Did we create better content? I don't think so. Arguably.
I think what happened is like 5% of people did, but 95% of people
they got drowned,
spammed it to shit, and then all the platforms were like, "This stuff is terrible," and they stopped showing it. So, do you think the same thing? We'll see a ton of videos or short form video content that's just crap, and then the platforms will get much tougher, or we'll use user engagement metrics.
Exactly.
That social media networks have be a better filter of that than the Google algorithm was, for example.
Yeah. So the end result is the bar's gonna rise because essentially the people who do the better stuff will still, as is now, get most of the reach, and then the bottom will get better quality, but still be the bottom and still get the same reach. So I don't see anything change fundamentally. The one thing that changes is that if you want to do quality and maybe, like, for example, I see it for video editing. I'm kind of getting into video editing with like CapCut, etc. right now. And it's like, you can do crazy stuff that I could never do before with this. Like, for example, like, you know how YouTubers, they have this background where they have like, a red light and a blue light, etc. And it takes quite a bit of setup to do, right? I could do this on the video I'm doing right now, even though there's just a white background. I can relight it. And it doesn't just put like some red and some blue. It relights my face and every item using AI, pretending there's a light source that's like, say, on my left, and a light source that's, say, on my right, and it calculates the crossover of the light, etc. And it's not perfect, but it's good enough for like short form content and so on. And so like, it's going to allow you to do these things. But if you're someone that has no taste or nothing to say, I don't think that's going to help you very much. What it's going to do is just going to rise the bottom. Like, it's going to be expected to have that,
This is the trap with AI, and we saw this with AI text, and I'm sure we'll see it with video as well, is that because it can string a sentence together in a really nice sounding way, or because it can make a video look really polished, it doesn't mean that the underlying information or content in the video is good, right? And I think that's where people have to focus on if they want to be successful, regardless of what it looks like.
AI has no taste. And if you don't have taste to say what's good or bad, you will make crap content by overly relying on AI to create that content. And that content is going to fail, regardless of how good the tools are. So yeah, the bottom's going to rise. That's the way I see it.
Okay, so the next one I have here comes out of Exploding Topics. And they're predicting that influencer marketing platforms specifically are going to be a big thing in 2025. So influencer marketing, the classic example, a business wants to promote a product, so they pay an influencer who has an audience to talk about it, to share it. And the way they connect with the influencer, it's always been a bit difficult. The pricing's been opaque and you're not really sure who you can contact. But there are starting to be established tools in this space, or databases and agencies and things like that. The whole ecosystem is being built up. So they mentioned specifically Upfluence, which apparently has over 3 million influencers at the moment. I haven't used it myself, but what's your thoughts? Influencer marketing in 2025, is it going to go big?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where kind of like affiliate marketing is, for a part of affiliate marketing is going, the part for small creators and so on, like brands, they're much more willing to now invest money into creators that have audiences and essentially promote the product without cannibalizing on their brand searches or whatever. In terms of they're much more refined in terms of how they calculate their conversions, and they see that the old way they ran their affiliate program doesn't necessarily work. And it was showing conversions, but it was not necessarily people who would not have not converted if they had not come across the affiliate. And so as a result, brands, like we've seen it with the podcast also, and like here, it's something that has grown for us as well. Yeah, it's gonna grow if people will want to invest in audiences, especially as social networks are gonna become more saturated with AI content, and people's attention is going to be scarce, basically.
I think there's this perception, or there has been, that an influencer is, one of these big YouTubers, someone with 10 million subscribers and all that. But actually what's happening is that there's a lot more of these. So there's a term like micro influencer, and now a new one, nano influencer, which is like someone that has less than 10,000 followers. But, we noticed this ourselves when we were first growing Authority Hacker. The first few thousand people in your audience, right? You have almost personal relationships with a lot of them. You email them, you interact with them, they comment on things, and you kind of get to know a lot of these people. Once you get past sort of 10,000 and into the hundreds of thousands, it's really, really difficult to keep track of everyone. There's just so many people in your orbit, right? So you don't have quite as strong of an individual relationship. So I think the argument is that these nano influencers can in fact be more influential towards a small specific subgroup of people. And because their audience size is less, it's cheaper for brands to work with them. So it's almost like a better deal in a way to work with those people. And in the B2B space, it's kind of exploding right now.
Yeah, and it's like, I think Neil Patel shared some stats around that, where he essentially showed that there's a much higher ROI in terms of investing like a small amount of money with a micro influencer than just paying like very, very big celebrities with millions of followers. It's also much more achievable for even small brands to use that as a marketing channel, because it's like, you're talking a few $1,000s at most for most engagements. And so, I think it's going to grow. We've seen results. We've seen people having results with that as well. And I think where the kind of like genuine affiliate marketers are going is going to be that, actually. And the money is going to shift for the people who build audiences.
So some statistics according to Exploding Topics, influencer marketing is growing 3.5 times faster than social media ad spend. Companies already spent $2 billion on influencers in 2023, so 2 years ago, and expected to grow. Expected 65% of businesses are planning to increase influencer marketing spend in 2025.
Yep, that's a lot.
Yeah,
like growing 3.5 times faster than social ad spend is a really, really strong trend.
Which itself is growing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a declining market. It's like I think there would be a lot of money there, and it's like a lot of people who have been struggling with Google, etc., would be well advised to essentially invest in growing audiences across all platforms and consider this as a monetization channels. And the caveat is you actually have to do the thing you're talking about, because when you start doing videos and so on, there's no way you can fake it.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next one. This is the last one of our predictions, and this was kind of mentioned by a number of people.
Guest predictions.
Yes, and then we'll get onto our own ones. But this was mentioned by a number of people. So it's around AI chatbots being used for customer service for online companies. And apparently 72% of customers expect an immediate, which is defined as within 10 minutes, response to their customer support queries 24 hours a day. So, surely AI chatbots are the only way you can meet that demand. But are they ready?
Yeah, I think for most, the way I see it is like you get like a low level of support handled by chatbots, and you can teach the chatbot to escalate to a real human when it's something that becomes a bit more complicated. I actually believe that's going to happen with doctors. So like that's the way I see it. Like I can see the NHS and all the social healthcare services that are overloaded with patients essentially handle all the calls and small stuff with AI chatbots and just pass on the important stuff to doctors. So customer support, definitely. I think that's going to happen.
I think doctors will be like one of the last ones that do this. I mean, knowing what I know about the healthcare system in this country, it's like it's quite archaic, and to suggest that AI will take over, I mean, I find it a bit of a stretch.
You know what's going to convince them?
Soon.
Money.
What?
Like it's going to actually kill the deficits.
It's a fair point, actually. I think that there's huge wait lists, right, in most Western countries to see a doctor, even if you're paying money for one. So this is a way to fix that. And there's all, we can get into the sort of
let's not go into that because we're talking about customer support.
But my point of this is that I think that this will be the last area that AI takes over, because even though you can maybe prove that, it's like with driverless cars, like
when it makes a mistake,
you can prove they're safer, but when they do make one mistake, even if that mistake percentage-wise is much less than what humans would make, people can't handle that a machine killed someone.
I understand. So. The NHS has never made any mistakes, so it must be better with AI. Anyway, let's go back to customer support. Yeah, I think that you have two layers. You have the lower layer. You'll expect the lower layer to be AI. It's already happening. I wish ActiveCampaign did that, by the way, because it's been 3 days. I'm waiting for a ticket response right now. So ActiveCampaign, please check that out. But then you have a lower layer, and then after that, it will just escalate. It will be given like a list of cases where it should escalate. Maybe like, hey, I'm passing this off to a human. We'll be back to you in 24 hours, and then you'll have to wait the normal ticket time, which means probably the support jobs are going to decrease a lot. In 2025, there's going to be a lot less people behind a lot more tickets. And the thing as well is with the
this is the classic example of it's a job where 50 to 70% of the tasks are basic and repeatable. So like that segment, and also the consequence of getting it wrong in most industries, barring healthcare and a few others, is minor, right? It could usually be fixed later. So that is absolute prime for an AI takeover, I think.
Yeah, I think that I was going to say as well. Now, we have these models where you can like show your camera and you can show all that stuff. Like Gemini 2.0 Flash is natively multimodal, like with video. It works decently. I can imagine that you're gonna you have a problem with your car. You have like not just software, like think everything. And you're just gonna point the camera and talk to the person, and they'll just help you with that or share your screen or whatever. And that's going to almost be better than like the traditional ticket system that you have with support agents. So there's a case where it's going to upgrade support for many products while also making it significantly cheaper.
All right, so let's move on to some of our own predictions for this year. Gail, do you want to take the first one? Let's maybe do two or three each.
All right, so the first one I'm going to take, which is like a very controversial one, is that Google is going to take the lead in the AI race, actually.
Okay, quite controversial.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have said this 6 months ago, right? No way. But they've just done releases at the end of last year, the new Gemini model. So they released the Flash model, which is kind of like the less smart one, the smallest model. But it's already as good as their mid-size model, so the upgrade is significant. And it has the biggest context size by a mile. Just to give you an idea, these models from Google have 2 million token context size. Consider tokens like, a word, basically, something like that. So you can put like multiple books inside one prompt, and it can handle all of that. I think the demo from the 1 million context size was they put Les Miserables, from Victor Hugo. It's like a French book, pretty big book. And then they uploaded a painting of a scene inside the book. And they asked the model to go and find like the passage in the book that matches the picture. And the model was able to do that. Now we're talking twice more context size. So you could upload this book more than twice.
Can you give us an idea of what current context sizes are on some of the other platforms?
Yeah. So GPT-4 is 128,000 tokens versus 2 million for Gemini. Anthropic Claude is 200,000. So we're still
Okay.
talking like 10 times more than Anthropic inside the Google models.
Yeah,
so
that's impressive.
they're leading. They're leading on that, and it becomes important for things like, imagine like we talked about customer service, right? Like you can give a lot of data inside the prompt from your customer. Like you could put your entire customer service manual in there. You don't even have to build like
Yeah,
a
you could
database
upload
or
like
something.
hundreds of
Yeah.
past queries and analysis of
Exactly,
what went well
like
and
many
those types
many
of things.
replies. Like you can make a huge, like it makes this better. They have a free API. You actually know that the Gemini API is actually free up to a certain rate limit. You don't pay for it. And when you pay for it, it's quite a bit cheaper than everyone else. So I can imagine a lot of apps, if like basically the models are slowing down in progress right now. Like everyone's like, okay, we've run out of data. We need to figure out what's the next breakthrough is so that we can make a big leap again. And so what's going to probably happen is the next generation of models, they'll be more or less the same level of smartness. So price is going to matter, right? It's like how cheap is it and how fast is it? And Google is leading on the price as well. So they're not only leading in the context size, they're leading in price. But one thing that makes Google's models particularly interesting is that they can integrate them in the products we all use. So for example, the API has an option where you can route it in Google search. So think like Perplexity, but via API. Like Perplexity has an API, but it's a piece of shit. But this one is actually decent. So you can base the answer based on what it finds in Google, and it's just a tick box in the API. They can, like, they're building Chrome extensions for it.
What would the use case of that be then?
I mean, I'm not sure, but like, let's say you want fresh news, for example. Like, most of these models have like a cutout date. Like ChatGPT has search, but it doesn't have search inside the API at the point at which we're recording, at least.
Okay.
Whereas here, like, you could route it into like, okay, what happened yesterday? It can do a Google search and then have an API answer
And
within
then work
the
with that
API.
data. Okay, that's cool.
Exactly. But like, Google Maps, for example, like it can make itineraries inside Gemini. So if you ask it Gemini for an itinerary, they will show you like a Google Maps preview and prepare the itinerary, and you can click it, open Google Maps, for example. They have access to all the YouTube data. They have access to Gmail. They have access to all of that. And so like once they already started baking a lot of that stuff in there. And I think, yeah, it's going to just make it a better product, even as AIs are just not really much smarter than each other at this point. And also, I think Google Search is going to learn from SearchGPT that is gaining traction right now, and just basically just implement whatever's winning there, like whatever people like. Like, for example, at the end of last year, they already started testing with you being able to drag and drop a file into the search field for Google to search in it, the same way you would do it in ChatGPT, for example. And I can see these things essentially happening more and more as OpenAI challenges Google search. They identify what works. But yeah, in terms of AI,
is this going to be like the big social media companies where they all, like, someone innovates a new feature and then everyone else copies it the next month?
Of course. And so, but like Google has the usage. And so they're able, and now that their models are really catching up and they're cheaper and they have more context size, unless there's like another leap from the other companies, which can happen. Like, I can still see Anthropic having the smartest models, for example, like Claude it's still probably going to be there, but it's really for professional niche, etc. It's not for everyone. I think the model everyone will be using could be a Google model by the end of 2025 if everything goes well.
Okay, that's an exciting watch this space, I guess. Now, that's all assuming that Google doesn't get broken up by the government, and
that could happen.
Throw a spanner in the works, and that's kind of my prediction. So there's two stories that are kind of ongoing at the moment. One is TikTok and its imminent ban in the US, and the other is the Department of Justice wants to break up Google essentially and make Chrome a separate entity or sell it off in some way. It's not quite clear yet, but both those things are supposed to happen this year in 2025. I don't think either of them will. I think both of these it's kind of like too big to fail in a way, right? They're make so much money and they're so powerful that they will fight tooth and nail to have some kind of compromise solution, kind of like what we maybe saw with Microsoft and its antitrust case 20 odd years ago, where they just dragged it out to the point where it was unimplementable, basically.
I don't say it's not just that. It's like if you sell Chrome to anyone, Chrome's like 15 billion valuation or something, right? So not many companies can just afford to bankroll that. If you give that to Facebook or Amazon or Apple, you create instantly another monopoly that is just the same issue that Google has, you know?
And I think these governments, especially in search, they're like talking about like they're 4 years too late, right? That would have been the right thing to do in 2020, 2021. But now we're in this new era of AI, and like Chrome's now a factor in the AI arms race, and they're not really considering those things as well. So they will, if they do break it up, they'll tinker, and I don't think they will make the problem any better. It'll just go to someone else, right? Yeah.
It's just like, I think you create an instant other monopoly for pretty much anyone else that buys this. Can you imagine Amazon buying this and you just see like a bunch of, you have Chrome Prime or something? Like, I don't know, how does that work? Yeah, that wouldn't work.
And you know, the TikTok one, it's slightly different. It's on the kind of national security grounds, and you know, I get where they're coming from. It's just so popular now, TikTok, though. I think it's going to be difficult to.
Trump wants to protect it as well, so we'll see what happens on January 20th. But yeah, it's like I think the ban is supposed to be enforced on January 19th, which is really soon.
Yeah.
And Trump comes into office on January 20th. So that should be
but
an interesting
even
one.
if it is banned, it's not like, you know, everything gets deleted on the first day. It just like it'll be unavailable from the App Store. Current users can still update it. So like the new government coming in, if they want to 180, like they can do that, no problem.
Yeah, Trump said that it helped his campaign, so he liked it. That's what he said on the interview.
There you go.
So we'll see what happens.
All right, you want to
okay.
take the next one?
Yeah, I think that next year we will be spending a lot of time tinkering with building autonomous AI agents. Now, this is something that's already starting. And actually, like, I'm going to share my screen and show you that. So if you're on the audio, I'm just going to show you guys. But so actually, we already have AI that can use your computer. So I'm gonna play this without the sound, because otherwise that's a bit much. But basically, you know, that's Claude that you're seeing here. And
describe what we're looking at for the audio listeners.
Yeah, so this is a Claude computer use demo where they essentially ask it to fill out a vendor request form with some equipment it finds it has in a with some data it has in a spreadsheet, and you know the model basically reads the spreadsheet.
So we've got a Google Sheet opened in a Chrome browser, and then we've got another Chrome browser with like a form from a website, and it's like essentially going through and acting like a human, performing the task, getting the information from one place, copying it over, pasting it in the form, going back, copy pasting it. Like it's I feel like if a user recorded a macro of themselves, this is kind of it performing, but it's all led by the AI.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, remember, models are becoming multimodal now, so you'll be able to upload a video of you doing something, and then that thing's just gonna do it again and again. So like, you know, I don't think it's gonna do like crazy crazy jobs or anything. It's just gonna do things like lead gen, sending basic emails,
data entry jobs though.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, you must be worried if you're in that industry.
Yeah, and Google is doing the same thing with something called Project Marina, which is a Chrome extension based on that new multimodal model. And again, you have a chatbot on the right, and so it's like, oh, memorize the list of companies and look them up and find their contact information, that kind of stuff, and fill the spreadsheet. And essentially it does it. Now, it's very slow again, but it does it. Like, I'm skipping through now, but you can see it's like it's going through websites, it's going on Google, it's searching on Google, going finding the contact info, going to the spreadsheet, adding it, etc.
It's essentially doing it slower than a human at this point, but we would have to assume that would dramatically change like quite quickly.
Also, like, you can launch this at night and just wake up in the morning to a filled up spreadsheet. Like, if you don't have to like monitor it and just let it do its thing, you launch it and then you come back a few hours later and it's done a bunch of work. So I think that's going to replace, like, you know, the chief VAs in the Philippines or something like this, like this kind of job. I don't think it's going to do much else in 2025, but it's still something. And we'll spend quite a bit of time, I think, building this.
How big a risk is there that this gets into the hands of some scammers and it ends up sending money to different people's bank accounts from their logging in and doing all that stuff?
99.9%, but I'm sure the reason why it's not...
The Scam Baiter YouTube channel is going to have a lot of content in the next few years, then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it can be used for good and for bad. It can be used to spam people. It can be used to like it can do anything a human can do. Humans do good and bad things. Yeah, I think it's not going to be much smarter than that, but I think there will be a lot of like very useful use cases, like, you know, lead generation, People are like doing some basic research, finding like, it's like, hey, find me companies that do this or whatever. And that's going to be pretty good. Talking about finding companies that do this, another thing I didn't say about Google and about their model and winning the AI race is they have a new thing called deep research. And it reads literally like hundreds of websites and gives you like a giant Google Doc research on whatever query you gave it. So think Perplexity on mega steroids. You give it a query and it goes like an intern that researches for a week. And an hour later, it gives you a Google Doc that has like super in-depth research on everything that you wanted to do. And it brainstormed multiple other queries, related queries, etc., read hundreds of documents, and then made you a summary in a Google Doc, which is crazy.
What a time to be a student at the moment. Like you have so many tools to like do your work for you.
To do nothing, yeah. Can you imagine how much they can party now and like not care about being hungover the next day? That must be fun.
Yeah, those are the days, eh?
So that's that, and then there's something that's a little bit less new, but that's the real-time API. Real-time API is like advanced voice mode on ChatGPT, basically. You know, the one that you can interrupt, that you can talk to, that has low latency. And I think if you combine, these agents with essentially real-time API that can do phone calls, can do all of that, etc., we're gonna build some pretty crazy tools. Like I can imagine having an AI chatbot I talk to, like, hey, book me a hairstylist every 6 months, put it in my calendar, and do this and that, and you'll be able to do that. Now the only problem with this is still
hold on.
Yeah.
You get your haircut every 6 months?
No, I mean, okay, no, I don't get it every 6 months. I was gonna say something else, but I just said haircut. Okay. Let's talk about the price though. The problem with these APIs is they're expensive. $0.24 per minute of audio output on OpenAI, which is more than an Indian call center worker at this point. So it is still pretty expensive. I expect these prices will probably reduce in 2025. But yeah, I think we're going to be building some agents, combining all these things next year. And it's going to become even more of a game of optimizing your processes, templates, and just getting these things work for you. And I'm pretty excited for that. That's one of the parts that I'm the most excited for next year.
Okay, let's take one more of our own predictions, and then we can go up and review last year's one. So you want to take the last one?
So the last one I'm going to take is actually on social networks just becoming just as flooded with AI content as we've seen blogs become, right? It's like we have a lot more, AI models that can generate really good images. We now have video models like there's Sora that came out that wasn't nearly as good as people expected. But actually Google has also one that just came out. I can't remember the name, but it looks better than Sora.
The Google seems to be losing the kind of PR war against OpenAI.
Yeah, they suck at telling you it's good, but it's
just
good.
Like hardly anyone has heard of any of these things that Google's released. But
maybe
quite
they should
good
call
in
us
some
up.
cases.
Yeah, they should call us maybe. But yeah, it's a good one. And yeah, it's like there's already a lot of social networks that are like flooded with AI that nobody talks about. But I think with this stuff, it's gonna be like blogs really. And I want to show you again what Pinterest looks like today, because I think that's quite interesting. So let me share this with you. This is my homepage on Pinterest, like nothing crazy, except this is an AI image. 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 This I'm not sure. It may be an AI image. This is an AI image.
We're looking here for the audio listeners, just pictures of people's houses and gardens and bathrooms and offices. The usual Pinterest stuff, but yeah, it has that kind of like
70% of it
AI
is
feel
AI
to it. Yeah.
Like, and this is just like, so this is probably real, for example, but this is AI, this desk for sure. Like when you zoom in, like I don't think that's real. And you could keep going. Like it's like I would say like 50 to 70% of the images I have on Pinterest are AI at this point, which is bananas. And the same is happening on Instagram as well, for example, where people are making thirst tap with fake hot girls and just putting an OnlyFans, and then it's like people teach that. Like it's not. I was researching for this podcast. I saw tweets of people like selling courses on how to do this. Making fake AI models, attaching an OnlyFans, and they brag about making 20K a month, basically, right? And it's like I was also playing with custom training AI models on my photos, and essentially have it come out, like see how close I could get to faking it, right? And I'm gonna show you two photos I generated. I showed you the funny ones. earlier, but I made some more realistic ones. Look at this one, for example. It's like he's a little bit more in shape than I would be probably. Like I wish I could look like that. But other than that,
maybe a bit better fashion sense as well. But
yeah, maybe. Other than that, AI dress is better than me. That's a fact at this point.
It looks. I mean. So I can't remember where that photo is from, but I feel like I've seen that like head pose of yours before. Is it just taken that and put it onto like another body or a similar looking body?
I mean, it's like it's slightly more in shape than my body, but it's not too far off, I would say. So no, it's just a prompt that I told it to like make it look like an iPhone photo, like not perfect, etc. And it just like it feels like that. And here's another one. This one is a little bit less good, I think, for the face.
But it's got that kind of like super like skin smooth
it's too much
AI thing to it. You know?
They need to be upscaled. Like there is tools to like upscale them and make them better. But the point is like if I kind of like tweak this image a bit, I'm pretty sure I can post it on LinkedIn and people are gonna think it's real. Like if they're not really looking for it and if I'm not really caught posting too much AI content. And the point is like, there's tools to like upscale this and make this a bit more high detail and so on. But like, this is a model that took me 20 minutes to train on my photos. And then just a prompt, and then I can generate all sorts of crazy images. Let me actually just see if I have some other ones. But here's me as a Jedi, for example, that you can see. So yeah, you can do some crazy stuff, and I think social media is going to be flooded by it, and I think that's going to lead to maybe even some platforms making human-only content or something like that, because social media is going to, suffer the fate of what happened to blogs and content. And I think people are gonna really crave for like real authenticity. And that's why some creators like, Sam Sulek, etc. on YouTube do so well, because this AI content is going to be everywhere and tiring.
What's interesting is that when you had the Pinterest page up before, you were able to look through it and make a judgment about which photos you think were AI and which were not. How far away do you think we are from a point when you cannot make that distinction?
Maybe 2-3 years.
Okay.
Like again, there's like upscale tools that make things look a lot better. And it's like I didn't bother for my examples, but like you can go one step above already. And I think that's what these fake Instagram influencers teach in their course, basically. If you want to learn that. But yeah, it's not. It's the last 10% are always very hard to get. It's like we've seen self-driving cars since 2016, right? They still don't self-drive in the car at this point in the street. Like, and we would be quite afraid to let them self-drive for like a whole day being in the car, for example. So I think AI images will probably go that way, where it's still gonna be identifiable for a while, but it's gonna get closer.
Last 10% is progressively.
But like maybe now, like 10% of people can tell it's an AI image. And in like 2-3 years, we might be going down to 2 or 3%.
Okay,
that's probably what's going to happen.
All right, so let's move on to the last section where we're going to react to some of last year's predictions that we made. So let's just go through them. I'll say what the prediction is, and then tell me, Gail, if you think we got it right or wrong. And let's count up the total. So the first is, we said that there would be a split in the SEO industry and it would become more divided between two approaches, one being those chasing quick wins and algorithms, and the other focusing on building quality brands through EAT, genuine UX signals, and just building a good business.
I mean,
that right? I feel like we didn't. That's kind of.
I feel like it's scattered more than anything. It's more than two sides. I feel like there's just a million different churches at this point. And people just follow them. So yeah, it's this industry is slowly dissolving, in my opinion. It's just happening.
So it's fair to say we got it half right. So we'll give ourselves half a point for that. But it definitely has gone more than two ways. There's like 1,000 different ways that it's split up.
There's still people chasing the algorithm. There's the people who pretend nothing's happening and everything's fine. There's the people who left. There's the people who became topical authority experts overnight. There's the people who want to sell you links. There's all of them. And so, at this point, I think many people are leaving this industry, though. It's not something that's growing anymore. I think everyone can agree on that.
Time to abandon ship for everyone then.
Well, yeah, it's like that's one of the things that we talked about when we said we want to kind of move on ourselves. It's like, oh, I don't want to be the last guy at the party at 4 a.m., you know? And you know what I mean? Like the drunk guy on the dance floor, everyone's left, and holding a drink that's spilling all over the floor. Don't want to be that guy. So yeah, we may be biased on this though, but we'll give a half a point.
All right. Next one was there'd be more ranking volatility followed by a period of stability. So
what's the stability?
We thought that the first half of 2024 would be quite volatile, which it was, to be fair. You know, the core update, the Google core update in March through May was pretty wild. Then they also announced the site reputation abuse stuff, which kind of, again, dragged on into, I guess, Q3. But it felt like the updates just kept coming and coming and coming. And like,
I think it was stable, but the bottom, you know, like people got the bottom.
It's like it couldn't get much worse, right?
It got stable. So in a way we were right, but not in the way we expected to be right.
I wouldn't give ourselves any points for this because even at the bottom of the stability, it still felt like every core update that they had, and there were a lot of them last year.
Even the December
sites getting wiped out, like in many cases undeservedly so again. So it's like they haven't really fixed the core issue here.
I'm not sure they'll fix it in 2025 either, to be honest. At this point, it looks like more changes are coming due to increased competition. So my guess is more of the same in 2025, if I had to make a prediction.
Okay, next one was Google will address big sites ranking for everything. And I think we got this right because they did nothing about this for decades. And then in the second half of 2024, they did actually start taking action.
They went after Forbes. To me, it's like the biggest symbol they could ever have there.
Yeah.
So a lot of sites lost traffic. I would not be surprised if many of them regained a lot of traffic in 2025. But it's not as free for all for the big sites on affiliate queries anymore. And in many cases, Reddit took their rankings.
There were two angles to this. The first was in May last year when a number of sites that had these coupon directories, which were apparently all managed by the same one or two companies, just using the domain reputation of big newspapers and sites like Forbes to rank for coupon queries. So that got basically destroyed in May. And then I think it was September, October last year, they went after Forbes in this big profile thing, like Forbes Advisor, the whole affiliate section of Forbes basically got taken down, got de-indexed, and many other sites, CNN and big publications got affected too. So that was a big wake-up call, and those publications are going to have to make major changes this year if they want to get any of that traffic back. Yeah,
and a lot of people got fired as well. It's not just the small sites that took the hit here. It's like a lot of these big sites are under fire, and it was kind of the HCU. Let's just say that. It just came 2 years later, but it was the same, you know.
Okay, so let's put that one down as a 1 point for that. We got that right. Next one, parasite SEO will be addressed. Google will tackle sites selling guest posts, content for SEO purposes, and may update their webmaster guidelines and implement manual penalties. So I don't really think we got this right because parasite SEO is still very much alive and kicking.
But Outlook India is not. So you could argue that a lot of the sites that used to sell placements are not here anymore.
Okay,
and they got.
So I would say they addressed it like a kind of surface level, and then it became fragmented, right? This still happens a lot, but it's maybe a little bit kind of under the table and less in public.
I think it's more challenging. I think the costs went up and the returns went down. I don't think it's nearly as profitable as it was a year ago. And I think that's
I'm
what
not
they
sure
need to do.
though. I see so many people talking about this on Twitter and SEO conferences and
selling parasite SEO courses.
I mean, it seems to be thriving.
Or selling placements. Be careful of what you read.
I wouldn't go as far as to say they've fixed the problem.
No, they didn't fix the problem, but they made it much more challenging. I don't think nearly as many people can profit nearly as much as they used to. And that's kind of like what they need to do. They need to keep it in check. I don't think they can ever completely fix it.
Okay. So do we get a point for this?
I would say yes. You can put half point if you really want to be fair.
All right, let's go half a point. Next one, we said there'd be a major link-related algorithm update.
That did not happen.
there was
no.
There was not at all.
No.
We did see more manual penalties, but it wasn't really for link-related stuff. It was mostly for content-related.
In general, the traditional ranking factors, it doesn't look like they're touching them much anymore. It's more like they're adding new ones, and they're like user engagement, brand searches, stuff like that is coming in, rather than Google is just touching on title tags or whatever. Like it doesn't like it feels like all this stuff is like shrinking in importance. It's still there and important, but it's shrinking to make room for new factors rather than them changing how Google handles them.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So that was SGE, Search Generative Experience, will roll out, but won't kill SEO. So I mean, it rolled out to 1 billion people. Yeah, it rolled out to 1 billion people in 2024. So that's a lot of people. It didn't kill SEO. No, it's like SEO is almost impossible for content sites. Like that's something I want to say, because when we made a lot of announcements end of last year, people got confused. SEO is still viable for most real businesses like e-com, SaaS, local
like service-based businesses, local businesses. It's still good, and you can still get good traffic from it and make money. It's just the content side business that is not something that we would recommend people do anymore, and that's why we just don't sell the courses anymore. So it's like, didn't kill SEO, it just killed one business model.
Yeah. So I mean, it's fair to say I think we got that one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It felt kind of like a featured snippet. It'll eat into your organic traffic, but not destroy it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it does. It's just like it takes away clicks, but people still get traffic from Google.
Okay. And the last one was GPT-5 / Gemini content will make GPT-4 content feel outdated. Didn't really get that one right.
We need to be honest at this point in the episode. Only the real loyal fans are listening anyway. It's like we're recording this while OpenAI is making their 12-day announcements in December. Therefore, there could be a chance that they release something like GPT-5 on the last day, which is speculated. So I don't know yet at this point. We're on day 8 at this point. But it's actually not GPT-5 or Gemini that has made GPT-4 content feel outdated. It's actually Claude 3.5 Sonnet that has done so, which is a way better writer than all these other models by a mile. Like a lot of people who attempted to create content with AI that we helped, they used to use OpenAI, they struggled. We made them switch to Sonnet and change their prompts and change all of that. And now they're like, well, I fired all my copywriters. So sorry for the copywriters. But yes, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is very, very good. And I think that's the model that really took creative writing to the next level this year. So it wasn't, we were wrong on the model, but there is a model that made original GPT-4 content feel bad, and that's 3.5 Sonnet.
Okay, then I guess we get half a point for that, maybe.
Yeah, I think we get half right.
So let's see. We got
half right
1.5, 2, 3. We got 3.5 out of 7, so exactly 50%. So
basically, you could flip a coin and just get the same accuracy, right?
Exactly. So yeah, I'm not really sure if people should be listening to our crystal ball predictions in future, but let's be honest. I mean, it's difficult to estimate exactly what's going to happen, and this is fun to do. Something we do every year.
I think we get a lot of stuff that's like kind of in the right direction, but not really turns out that way.
A lot of it, is like the timing didn't. We're predicting the general direction of things, but it takes longer. It happens faster.
If you had like a 3-year time span, I think we'd be more accurate, for example.
All right. Okay. Well, next year we'll look at our 3-year results.
We'll do it on you every 3 years now. Anyway, thanks for listening to this podcast. And if you guys enjoy it, don't forget to subscribe, drop us a comment, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for the next one.